definitely a trend towards more parboiled.
Yeah, so more convenient, fast cooking rice. And then something we also picked up on is Gallo in Italy is considered quality rice, and people buy it because of the quality, out of habit, because of availability, and the convenience of the packaging. That's all I got.
Okay, good. Number one, and then we have number two. This is Gallo's specific market position.
We have a lot of numbers, so I'll just read them out. They're 21% of Italian retail rice volume is accounted for by Gallo, which makes them the market share leader in rice overall, which is a 2% growth over the previous year. The volume share of white rice sales in Italy was 17.3%. 64.4% of Gallo's Italian sales by volume in Italy was in white rice, so it's the biggest product. In terms of lira, that's 51%. 34.4% of Gallo's Italian sales by volume was in parboiled rice, which accounts for 48% of their sales in terms of lira.
And we noticed that there's the fear that the retailers may introduce their own private labels. So that's one possible competition in the future. Then a new dehydrated line product was launched as a freestanding product, but it required a lot of promotional support, so it did not work out well. So they reintroduced it within the blonde line, and it seemed to be doing very well.
In Argentina, 92% of the households consume rice once a week.
Compared to, actually, we didn't say that, but 98%, I think, in the Italian market. So it's still almost up there.
And 30% consume rice 3 times a week. Yeah. But it seems as though as the patty rice is decreasing, the consumption of patty rice is decreasing, and the consumption of parboiled rice is increasing in the market. And that's for Gallo.
Okay. There's some of the
Parboiled rice sales, 18.5%, 91 is 16.1%, 90, which is an 11.5% increase. 17.5% of total market share in Argentina. As far as other specific numbers,
I mean, they're faced with the inflation. I mean, that's I think that's any country you go to. I mean, there's also the economic consideration. Oh, that's the marketing consideration.
we answered all.
Market position. There's one challenger, and that challenger is Molina.
That's
Okay.
Okay.
So I've given you guys some headway. So go ahead and run with it.
Jennifer.
There's a lot of consumer education still to take place, right?
Yes.
But positive development.
Yes. Uncle Ben's the big competitor within Poland. And then another way rice is sold is unbranded in paper bags.
Dirty and a little raw, cracked rice, right? Doesn't sound so
Very low
appealing.
quality.
Yeah.
Yes.
They're wondering whether to introduce other product lines and how quickly they should do that.
Because right at the beginning of the life cycle stage with rice in Poland, how should we skip ahead? Should we go the normal route and build it up, or how should we do this?
Yeah, some good questions here, right? Hidden under these facts and figures and objective information. Okay, so what's going to happen now is that you are now going to just kind of forget about the facts. You're going to have them and use them, but your task now is to actually play the country manager of each country. So you as a collective, you are the country manager of Italy. Here we have the country manager of Argentina, and here Poland. So, of course, and I will be the headquarters. So, of course, you're going to have to compete for resources. And I have the final say because I'm headquarters. But we're all gathered to speak about the pros and cons of each market. So it's your job to argue for Italy to get as many resources as you can into your market. So you don't have to be objective any longer. You can just throw that out. Use the facts and figures, but it's all about arguing your point. Remember how headquarters usually wants to standardize, to try to figure out ways to be cost effective across borders, to do standardized uniform branding and all these exciting things. But you as a country manager, you're looking at your specific market. You know that you're going to have to focus on adaptation in order to be successful, right? So now it's a matter of figuring out why headquarters should focus on your market and what kinds of resources you need to kind of put in those kinds of, implement those kinds of measures that you want. So I'm going to give you a few minutes to just completely step out of your objective hat into that of the country manager and start laying out arguments now, not the facts, just the arguments. How do you use these facts to argue your point for Italy, for Argentina, and for Poland? And eventually, what's going to happen, I hope and think, is that you're going to start probably arguing with each other a little bit. But it's important that you have to be on your country's side. You are the country manager. If you're not fighting for your country, nobody is. So it's about competing for those scarce resources in the company. But think about what you're going to do if you had those resources too. What would your initiatives be? But I'll go around, but I'll allow you a few minutes now to kind of reposition yourself as country managers. Is it clear?
Yes.
Yeah.
Maybe this,
Consumption per capita? Yeah, because everybody in contrast to Italy. All right, what I'm referring to, if you go down to market characteristics, right, you're just thinking on page 2. Right, so as far as the growth market is concerned, that it doesn't have the risks of the emerging market, which would be covered, right? There's way too much risk as far as Poland is concerned. When you take a look at Argentina, you look at 30% demographic between the ages 0 and 14. You need to get to them now. You need to
it can't be used the same way.
57%, I mean, you added up 87%, you already 59 has a high purchasing potential, a lot of potential to move from one brand to another, especially with that youngest demographic. Right.
We're at the headquarters, and we're going to hear from all of the different country managers today. We're at this stage of our company where we have to figure out what to do, where are we going to put our resources, what are going to be our focal points, how are we going to try to make sure that we disperse innovation and try to take advantage of all the benefits across these different cultures, these different countries. How are we going to do this? How are we going to set up the stage for the future? So today is very important. And we want to hear from each one of you, from the Italian country manager, the Argentinian, and the Polish country manager, what you think that we should do in the future, what kinds of resources you need for what types of initiatives. You have to argue your point. Why should we give this to you at this point in time? And we, of course, have to be a little bit biased, so we're going to start with Italy, because that's, after all, a very strong home market that has really shaped our company and has its history, so to speak. So we're going to actually give the courtesy to Italy to start, putting out a few points, and then we're going to go around to the teams, and eventually we're going to open up the floor for a very open debate about this. Refreshing and open debate. Constructive debate, hopefully. Okay, so why don't we go to the country manager for Italy?
Well, we think we need a lot more resources this year because we have a lot of competition from different firms. First of all, Flora is spending 20% more on advertising than we are, and as a result, we are losing market share. So we need to increase advertising to compete with Flora. We also want to avoid any competition in the future from private label brands, so we would like to think about creating our own private label brand. So for that, we would need money to start out the process. Also, we need to advertise the dehydrated line properly so that we get more revenue out of it. And parboiled rice is another area that has been growing very fast. So we'd like to make sure that we're also maximizing advertising in that area. So we definitely feel, and these are just few of the arguments we have. I mean, I can tell you all of them.
It's all focused more or less on advertising, or is any other measures?
And also launching the private label would be product development and kind of exploiting our competitive advantage with the dehydrated.
Okay.
And then the fact about the retailers getting a greater margin from Flora versus us, so we will need to increase our own margins that we give back to retailers so that we're at least able to compete on that front, because we don't want to reduce the price of Gallo products.
Okay. Okay. Those are the basic arguments.